Thanks, Phil. Now, The Beauty of Incomplete Things is a theatre piece that draws intimate experiences of three men. It explores themes of love and possession, fantasy and obsession, and is complicated with feisty passions. The play debuted in Cape Town at its world premiere in January 2014 and will be presented at the Joburg Theatre from July 15th to August the 1st. Joining us now from our Cape Town studio is writer and director Daniel Dercksen. Daniel, good morning, welcome.
Morning.
What an interesting title. Talk to me about the significance.
The significance being that the beauty of incomplete things is that all the characters in the play, they have incomplete lives, and through what they go through in the play, their incomplete lives becomes complete, and they discover that you don't have to necessarily be absolutely perfect if you have an incomplete life. Because most of us think that you have to have everything in life, but that's not always the case.
Daniel, you know what I love about what you've written and what you've directed is that this perception, this reality, is from a perspective from three men. Often when we talk about possession, love, obsession, fantasy, it seems to be around women, but you've created a really interesting piece here.
Yes, it's mostly seen from a female perspective, but what's quite interesting is that we deal with a straight male prostitute who basically becomes the object of obsession of a very flamboyant and very eccentric artist. And when this artist takes this straight monsieur to his hideaway somewhere in the woods for his birthday celebration, and his lover basically hijacks his fantasy to see exactly who this toy boy is and what he's doing, it obviously causes lots of conflict. So it's in that intimacy that they actually discover out who they are, the true meaning of love, and also shows how obsession can sometimes get completely out of hand if we don't actually know how to actually understand what we obsess over.
Often writers draw from observations and some kind of personal journey. What was your inspiration for this piece of work?
It was very much an inspirational journey that was inspired by real-life experiences. It's very much autobiographical. I would say a large part of the play was very much inspired by one of my friends who was killed in the Sizzlers massacre in Cape Town in 2004. And when I befriended some of the messieurs working at this specific massage studio in Cape Town, it became very apparent to me that you know, we always look at sex workers or we always look at prostitutes, and we look at that and we never actually see the person behind that. But if you actually get to know them, you discover that there's a great humanity, that they're just the same like everyone else. And that really inspired me to actually tell the story of the people of the people behind these faces that we see and we often don't try to engage with.
I understand that The Beauty of Incomplete Things is the second part of a trilogy.
Yes.
Talk to me about just the kind of direction that journey takes and why you've chosen to create this play in a threefold manner.
The first part of the play, actually, which took place at the waterfront at the Joburg Theatre, actually took us inside the intimacy of a massage studio to actually show the exchange between a client and a masseur and what actually happens. And I thought it would always be interesting in the second part to actually show what happens if the client and the masseur, if they actually cross the line into the client's private life, and if the client actually, after befriending the masseur, takes the masseur into his own private life, and how these two completely different worlds clash. And in the third part of the trilogy, which will be happening later this year, beginning next year, it's basically showing that before this client actually fell in love with this masseur, he had to actually learn how to fall in love with himself.
How is this subject matter? And I mean, look, it's of a very adult theme, and I think it's also important that probably when your audience is sitting there, there's a little bit of truth or something that's reflected back at them. What has the general reaction been to the subject matter and in the way you've approached it?
What's been very interesting during our run in Cape Town was that specifically women, specifically identified with the play, in a large extent for the simple reason, but not just women, mostly discerning audiences, but audiences ranging from girls to younger men to older men to women to across all cultures. And I suppose it's for the reason that if you watch the play, it's very easy to identify with the universality of the subject matter, but also find that it could be your son on stage, it could be your father, it could be your husband, it could be your best friend. So we see ourselves also in the characters, and through the experiences they go through, they basically hold up a mirror to us, and we see ourselves in a different way and actually also look at people differently.
Writing and directing takes vision. Talk to me about that process and what has it been like for you?
It's been very exciting because when we started the journey, it was quite funny, an exchange between myself and my actors. I had to actually say to them that from a directing point, that we had to actually ask the writer to leave and actually work without the writer. So they've never actually met the writer. And when we got into the second part of the journey, which was now getting ready for the Joburg Theatre, I said to them, it's actually quite a very, very, very strange situation I find myself in, because I just discovered that my director and my writer are actually sleeping together, and it feels quite uncomfortable.
Daniel, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining me from our Cape Town studio. That's writer and director Daniel Dercksen sharing his thoughts and insights into a trilogy. We're in the second part of it. It's called The Beauty of Incomplete Things, and it's currently on in Cape Town and heads to the Joburg Theatre on July the 15th to August the 1st.